Online at
Wakey, wakey!
This is 7waves Community Radio News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, President Obama has addressed both houses of Parliament.
I think he was going to be president until the night we were standing on the stage, and he actually won. I was like, God, look, you won.
With a second family, Mr Justice Eadie declared Chris Hutchinson could not be granted an injunction. And a woman has been... Debbie Murden was turned away from a branch in Derbyshire after staff said it was unsafe to serve her. That's the latest. I'm Adam Lindsay.
7waves weather with Arena Housing Association, making a difference to communities on Merseyside and the Northwest.
Well, we're going to have showers overnight tonight, I'm afraid, and the wind is going to drop, fortunately, down to about 10 degrees Celsius tonight. Tomorrow, rather cloudy again with outbreaks of rain throughout the day and the wind changing to northwesterly, which means it's cooler. Temperatures tomorrow, 13 degrees.
7waves weather with Arena Housing Association, making a difference to communities on Merseyside and the Northwest. For information, call 726 8808 or log on to arena-housing.com.
Live across Wirral on 92.1.
Wirral Tonight with Glyn Thomas.
And it's a warm welcome to our community magazine, Wirral Tonight, here on 7waves. It's Glyn Thomas with you through until 8 o'clock tonight. Our guests on tonight's programme, we're talking in the first part of the programme to a gentleman called Steve Dewsnap from Wallasey. He runs something called Bird of Prey Rescue. And then we're talking to a local composer of theatrical music and music for films, David Ben Shannon. He's from Wallasey as well, so it's a Wallasey-based programme tonight. And we'll be taking a look at our community notice boards, our what's-ons and appeals from around the world, things that are going on in the area. That's all coming your way between now and 8 o'clock. But some music to get us underway. First of all, these are the New Radicals. And you get what you give. Track to take us into Wirral Tonight here on 7waves, our community magazine show, The New Radicals, and you get what you give. Up and coming, Bird of Prey Rescue. We're going to be talking to Steve Dewsnap.
Wirral Tonight.
Steve, can you tell us how you first became interested in birds of prey?
Well, it's a long story, but brief version, I was involved with organising motorcycle races for nearly 30 years.
Okay, well, while that little clip is playing, I've got about 2 minutes now with Glyn Thomas. Glyn, obviously, how did you get involved with 7waves?
In the very early days, actually. I had done hospital radio way back in the 70s with Radio Catherine at St Catherine's Hospital in Birkenhead, which became Arrow Sound, Arrow Park Hospital. And by coincidence, there was an advert in the paper asking if anybody was interested in doing a radio course here at 7waves. And when I phoned Wirral Met College to find out about the course, they said, oh, you need to speak to somebody called Paul Smith, who was the tutor. And I thought, that name rings a bell. And I phoned up and said, you're not the Paul Smith who was involved in hospital radio in the 70s. And he said, yeah. And he said, well, I said, I'm Glyn Thomas. He said, I won't use the swear words, but he remembered that I'd do this like community magazine programme even then on hospital radio, and he was saying that they needed someone to look after the speechy kind of the radio. Obviously a lot of people who come here want to do music, and that's not a problem, but we do need obviously speech output as well. So that's how I got involved in 2003, and by coincidence I was able to, due to a voluntary redundancy exercise at work, I was able to take a redundancy package, take early retirement, and totally immerse myself in 7waves community radio, which is what I've done.
Right, Glyn, so you've been here obviously from so we're talking of what, 8 years, is it? Something like that? 8 years?
It is 8 years.
Probably
yeah.
long, yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you see yourself, say, in a year's time? Because you're loving this, aren't you?
Retired.
Retired, yeah.
But then again, does anybody ever retire from radio?
No way at
You
all.
just have to look at David Jacobs, don't you?
Yeah.
He's 85 now,
That's
and he's
right.
still doing radio.
I mean, I just asked Jeff Morris off Drive, what do you do when you're not doing the radio at home? And he says, I'm doing radio. I'm preparing tomorrow's show and so on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do actually love it. I mean, unfortunately, the way things work here, I'm actually paid at the station, so one of the problems is there's a lot of paperwork and that to do as well. So although it'd be great to immerse myself 24 hours a day in presenting programmes, that's not possible.
So it is nice to get away from all that paperwork and just do, as you say, show, play your favourite music and so on.
What a lot of people probably don't realise is that all the presenters on 7waves are volunteers. We do have paid members of staff, but not for doing programmes. So at 7 o'clock now, when I do this programme, I'm doing this as a volunteer because I come off the clock, as it were, at 7 o'clock.
That's right.
So everybody does programmes as a volunteer, which is great. Station, it's so professional, considering it's people who are really not professional doing it, you know.
That's right.
There are some people who've got a background in radio, who've had a long background in radio. For example, Paul Leckie and Paul Smith, of course, who worked on Marcher Sound. But most people have just done the course here at the radio station and progressed from the course onto the air, and that's a great achievement.
Yeah. How would you say, Glyn, before obviously your song's about to finish now, how would you say the radio has changed from, 2003 to today, its output? How would you sort of say any differences, besides obviously bigger premises, state-of-the-art studios and so on, but how would you say it compares to those days when you first started to today in 2011?
Well, obviously having this building that we've got, it is quite luxurious compared to what we had before. We survived previously in a single-room studio, and one of the problems you had was, you had to hot seat the previous presenter. So we had this rule whereby you played a record up to the news, 5 minutes, which gave the next presenter time to jump into the hot seat and carry on. But of course, if you're doing a program, a speech-based program, I mean, my interviews tonight are pre-recorded. But we do a programme once a month with WIRRAL Social Services as an example. And this studio on that particular programme will be full of people. We'll have social services, we'll have people from different agencies here, and we'll have 2 Irish musicians in Studio 2 next door playing live for us, live music. So that programme would have been impossible to do 8 years ago in a single room studio. Right, and the great thing is, of course, because we have in effect got the studio 1 hour before we go on the air, you've got all the time to prep. It is quite a luxury.
Wow, great. There you go. Oh, Glyn, listen, thanks very much. I'll let you get back to your show. And hey, that's what we want for the world to know. Cheers, Glyn. Well, there you go, mate.
Program in the US. That's the latest. I'm Claire Gregory.
7waves weather with Arena Housing Association, making a difference to communities on Merseyside and the Northwest.
Another fairly windy day, especially further to the north of Wirral. Showers across the peninsula during the morning should die away by the afternoon with dry and some sunny spells. Good morning, it's Andy on the 7waves Breakfast Show. It's now 10 degrees in Bebington. More in an hour's time.
7waves weather with Arena Housing Association, making a difference to communities on Merseyside and the Northwest. For information, call 726 or log on to Arena.
92.1 7waves Community Radio.
And now,
another hour
of
your favourite songs.
Wake up, Wirral.
The Breakfast Show.
7waves Breakfast.
7waves Breakfast.
With Andy Robb.
Breakfast. 92.1 7waves Community Radio.
Andy Robb on Breakfast. You want me to listen to Andy Robb on Breakfast? I'll be having me cornflakes.
92.1 92.1
Your love for me came as a waterfall, flowing inside me like never before.
I can see your brand new possibility.
There's 7waves Breakfast Show. It's 7 minutes past 9 o'clock. Good morning. It's Andy Crum for Danny Dockley for today. Danny's back tomorrow. And what a great start. The third and final hour of Tuesday's Breakfast Show. Michelle Gale. And looking up from the 90s. Just been having a laugh with the boss. She come back from a holiday. So I mentioned this before. It was Faulty Towers at its best. When she turned the shower on, it sprayed all the walls and the electrics, but not the person trying to get the shower. The bath had no plug in it. During breakfast, the eggs were that runny that they fell off the plate onto the floor. Right, the teaser for this hour. What word looks the same upside down and backwards? What word looks the same upside down and backward? And the teaser from the last hour, I'll give you the answer now.
Summer music.
Summer hits.
On 92.1.
7 Waves Community Radio.
Every day.
Jason Donovan, 7 Waves Breakfast, every day. I love you more. I think I'll send that one from Deb to Rob. Oh, and meets the missus as well. Oh, great tune. 7 Waves Breakfast, as I mentioned. It's Andy Curran for Danny Doherty just for this morning. Danny's back tomorrow. And these teasers again. What's this one? I have no eyes, no legs or ears, and I help move the earth. What am I? And here's an interesting one again. What word looks the same upside down and backwards? What word looks the same upside down and backwards? Now,